Hello everyone and welcome to Dev Tricks and Secrets. Today we're going to be taking a look at 15 of them across the maps of Black Ops 2 Zombies, stretching all the way from TranZit to Origins. This series is really just a way to celebrate the development of these maps, and if you enjoy any of it, consider leaving a like down below. It helps me out a ton, and of course make sure you subscribe so you can come back for more. Without further ado, let's get into it. For our very first dev secret, if we just go ahead and immediately use some no-clip spawning into TranZit and fly ourselves to the bus, we can indeed get inside of it and write it into the map. And Ted has animations the entire time as well. The bus does some really glitchy stuff with the tire at one moment, but other than that, you definitely can ride the bus into the map. But while we're here, let's go ahead and do an r_fog0. Oh man, that is so much better. And move on to our next dev secret. This one is quite interesting, and it's about the denizens. As you can see, a couple have spawned here, but they haven't come to me yet. If I get inside the map, give them some range, and then start flying away from them, we'll find that they will pretty much track me just about anywhere. You could be flying through the air, and they'll still catch up with you. I mean, they'll even sometimes track you under the map. But not only that, you could indeed fly out of the map, and they'll still come with you on your head, and if they pop off, they'll get glitched out. They won't know where to go, and they'll just be stuck in place. So not only are these things like little homing missiles, but now we also get to get a nice up-close look at their model. Which I think everyone has seen the fact that they have these gigantic yellow eyes. But if we go inside the denizen, we can see that it looks like he has two sets of teeth. Two top rows and two bottom rows. Almost like a shark or something. But what most people probably don't know is that denizens do indeed have nipples and a belly button. And I just found that insanely funny, so I had to put it in here. For our next dev secret, we're going to start here in town. And something that is beautiful about Black Ops 2 and some of the older Zombies maps as well, is a lot of window locations are connected that you wouldn't necessarily think are. For instance, this one in the bank. At the front, if we hop on into it, we can see that it does actually meander its way on through with a zombie spawn location in the middle towards the other window location inside the bank. But of course, that was a pretty simple example, so let's go ahead and head on over to Power, where we can find that this window location right here where you build the switch actually meanders its way up a staircase, which doesn't have a lot of textures going on for it, but it does make its way to another window location up top. Now, the reason that this happens, at least it seems like happens more in the older Call of Duty games and not the newer ones, is because they needed to worry a little bit more about zombie pathing. In games like Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4, for instance, zombies despawn almost immediately when you leave sight of them. But here in Black Ops 2, zombies needed a way to be able to decide, well, okay, he's no longer there, I'm going to turn around and go up the stairs and head up this window instead, allowing them to path to the player wherever they are. But for now, that's it for TranZit, so let's go ahead and head on to Nuketown. Nice. For our next dev secret, most people know who have played Nuketown that the mailboxes have the name Woods and Mason on them. This is the same in multiplayer as it is in the Zombies map. But if we fly ourselves out of the map, we can find that these mailboxes also have names on them. And they're the names of developers, such as Hogarth here, or Adam Hogarth, one of the lead level designers at Treyarch. He is responsible for the creation of Nuketown in general. He's the person that made it happen. He's the one that had the idea, drew up some sketches for it, and now it has become an absolute staple of the Black Ops franchise. But he's not the only name out here. We also have Hammond. And over here, we have O'Brien. And last but not least, we have Renzel. But funny enough, inside of Hogarth's mailbox, if we go into it, it also says Rex. And I don't know what this is referencing, but really strange that there would be an extra name inside of one of the mailboxes that you would never be able to see without no-clip. But unfortunately, with it being a small map, that is all I got for Nuketown at the moment, so let's go ahead and head on over to Die Rise.
Same old. Turn on the power, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, except we're on a broken building. And for our next dev secret, it is about this broken building, actually, and the fact that it doesn't exactly line up with its counterpart. It seems to be the case that that part of the building was supposed to be on top of this one. I mean, at least that would make sense, as that it has fallen and is now upside down right next to it. There's also other hints to this, like some signage saying that this is to the luxury apartments. And where are those luxury apartments? Well, of course, they are right here on the upside down portion of the building. And the dev secret going on here, well, if we look closely, the last floor number was 82. Or 81, I suppose, as 82 was sort of destroyed. And if we fly on over to the upside down building, we can find that the first floor number is 18. And I thought, well, okay, maybe this was just 81 and I'm just looking at it wrong, but no, definitely not. That's 18. And then that's 19, 20. Yeah, you get the point. In fact, it goes all the way down to the top floor being 30. I'm guessing this was just a little bit of a dev error, perhaps, or maybe they're trying to say something here. I'm not entirely sure, but it's very obvious that the elevator numbers do not line up here. But if we do say that this is the same building, as it definitely looks like it's supposed to be, I guess this would mean that it would have had 93 floors, this ending at 81, and this broken part starting at 18 and ending at 30. Although, you know, looking at it, it actually doesn't line up whatsoever. That whole two-door elevator that's horizontal, there is no matching counterpart over here. All of the elevators are situated in the other direction, so I don't know what's going on here. Maybe you guys can let me know down in the comments what you think. And for our next dev trick, if we go ahead and start flying up into the sky, we can see that we actually get closer to the stars that are above us. And that's because Denizen not only has a skybox, it also has a star box. And by that I mean a little texture that's wrapped around the entirety of the map, basically in a dome shape, creating those constellations above. But not only that, if we keep on going out further, we can find that the moon and some asteroids in front of it are indeed not part of the skybox, and instead are a 2D model floating out here, which is really cool to see. A very unique one, I suppose. Oh my god, look at that right there. The little area that is meant to represent Griffin Station seems to be red on this model. Not sure why that would be. And lastly, about this skybox, it seems that there's actually two of them. One here that you can see where there's all these buildings in the background, and funny enough, behind the moon, your buildings in the background. Like, that is Denizen right there. And then there's also a second one down below, which looks like it's just barren mountain land. It's sort of strange, as this is one of the very few zombies maps that has this. Another one is Shangri-La, for instance. And Shangri-La actually uses that second skybox, as there's an eclipse that flips between them. But here in Denizen, of course, that is not the case. And I'm not sure why it's down there. Perhaps it was going to be used and it just never ended up happening. But nevertheless, it is really cool to see that it exists, and is very strange as to why it's there. You know, even though Denizen was not one of my favorite maps back in the day, it is really cool looking at it now. So I'm going to take a sip of the coffee. Because, of course, I have my coffee with me here this morning, and I hope wherever you are, whatever time you're watching this, you're enjoying yourself. Because I absolutely love Black Ops 2 Zombies, and I can't wait to show you guys the rest of this list. So if you are enjoying yourself, consider leaving a like down below. It helps me out a ton, and of course, make sure you're subscribed so you can come back for more. But without further ado, our first little secret here on Mob of the Dead can be found inside of the jail cells. Most of the jail cells outside of the map do not have much modeling in them. In fact, many of them none whatsoever. But there's a few that do indeed have modeling. One type that is extremely creepy with a ton of skulls and limbs, as well as a zombie head here inside the sink, which sort of looks like Richtofen to me, if I'm gonna be honest. And what's really creepy about this zombie head, if I turn on Fullbright, we get to see that even its eyes glow red. Apparently something that was a mistake back in the day, according to the lead developer. Now, it's important to note that this is not the only jail cell that's like that. In fact, there's quite a few of them. There's some like this that don't have the head in it, but there's others that do. And as far as I can tell, there's 4 of them, just scattered around the map in various places. For our next dev secret, it's about these regulation signs that you can find all over the map. And as it turns out, these are taken exactly from Alcatraz. The wording is the same, for Regulation 05 at least, as we'll find that many of these had a little bit of an alteration. For instance, this one here for the dining room says meals are served 3 times a day in the dining room, do not exceed the ration, do not waste food. That's all normal, but at the end, of course, it says, do not pick up keys. Something that was definitely added as a little hint to players. And there's this one for the cell house, loud talking, shouting, whistling, singing, and blood gargling or other unnecessary noises are not permitted. Mostly the same, with one slight difference. And another one that says work. You are required to work at whatever you are told to do. Use perks to increase performance. And if we head on over to the warden's office, we'll find one that is completely custom. Regulation 666. Deal with it. Do not get too close. They are not your friends. Destroy their brains for quick extermination. And if you are bitten, please, well, you can read it yourself. Now that is it for Mob of the Dead, but for our next dev secret, underneath the witch's house and buried, you can find a lantern, specifically a purple one, which is quite different than all of the other ones that you find around this area. I do find this to be quite strange, but not only that, if we fly on over to the backyard, we can see that some of these plants that are used, their models are actually connected to vases. It's just that these vases are underneath the ground and all we see is the plant sticking up above. And last but not least, because I have to say this, I put it in every video I possibly can because I think it's absolutely awesome, is there's 3 bookshelves inside of the witch's house. 2 of them that are completely unused. However, they still do have an animation where they flip around and move back and forth. There's that one there, and through this door right here, we can find another one, doing the exact same animation as the last one. It definitely seems that the witch's house was going to be much larger than it actually ended up being. But something that is extremely off-putting, if we turn on Fullbright, we can see that the eyes of these witches no longer exist, and in their place is some little texture that has a yellow W. And as it turns out, it is not just the witches that have this little quirk. If we go on over, we can see that big old Arthur also has no eyeballs anymore. Fullbright simply renders without lighting, so I suppose that this is saying that these guys' eyes are essentially lighting? I'm not exactly sure how that works. For our next dev secret while we're here with the big man, if you come in here ahead of time without opening the door, you can disturb him and feed him the booze. Get himself all drunk and stupid. He'll run into the door, look a little bit goofy, and then afterwards glitch out, with his neck quite literally sticking through the cage. This, of course, gets fixed if you pick up the booze again, and you can go through the cycle over and over. He'll get stuck in some interesting positions every time. For our next dev secret, if we hop on off into Origins, and then fly ourselves over to the excavation site, there's something very strange hidden inside of the staircase. And if you look closely, you can see parts of it inside of the map. But if we use some no-clip and get on inside of it, we can see that it is the shield that's on front of the tank in the map. Even fit with a skull and crossbones, as well as some lights that are lighting up. Exactly the same as the one on the tank that we see in the map. This one is really strange. I have absolutely no idea why this is the case. And in fact, it looks like this little control panel is also here as well. It's a really strange detail, and perhaps an error left behind by the developers. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, it's really cool to see that it's there. For our next dev secret, it's about these conversion generators, where, of course, if you turn them on, slowly they fill up with 115. And going underneath the map, we can see exactly what's happening here. It's quite literally just this little blue texture sliding up and down. And funny enough, for this one that's over by Stamina, if we go inside that tunnel, there's a couple of these gigantic pipes. And the reason that these exist, if we go inside of them, well, they hold this blue 115 texture. So I suppose both lore-wise as well as the physical reality in-game, these tubes are meant to hold element 115. And it's really cool to see that the developers sort of slapped them here in order to make this whole thing work. And for our final dev trick, Well, we need to get inside of the robot's head. And as a little bit of an honorable mention to past Dev Tricks and Secrets episode, let's go ahead and fly on outside the map to do so, as the actual location of the robot heads are right here, hidden underneath this mountain outside of the map. And inside of these robot heads, we get to see a map of origins, which if you look very close, there has been some changes since this map was drawn. For one, Generator 5 is not just a single pathway, and instead it's a bit of a U-shaped loop, making it much more usable in zombies, and thankfully they made this change, as this is one of my favorite places to train zombies through. But what I find perhaps a little bit more interesting is around the Generator 3 location, where we can see an extra set of trenches on this map, clearly outlined just like other sections that are inside the map. Which, if we look at this area from above, it turns out that these trenches definitely do exist. It's just that they're no longer part of the actual final map of origins. Now, although it's definitely not the case that this has to mean that these trenches were going to be part of the map, but it definitely feels like it flying through and seeing some of the modeling, although the lack thereof as well. There's not very much going on back here. But at the very end, there is a pretty telling little piece of evidence, and that's that this texture extends further, almost like there was going to be a pathway here to Generator 3, just like there is on this little map. It also seems to be the case that Generator 4 was going to have some sort of interior space, as we can see that interiors on this map, such as this mid-building right here, are represented just like this. Now, of course, in Origins, there is a building here, however, it's most certainly not an interior space, as it's been completely destroyed by the robot stomping on it, as well as fire and probably some other stuff as well, considering we're in the middle of World War I. But it is quite interesting to think about what it would have been like to have an interior space here, but it is a very cramped part of the map, so perhaps it wouldn't have really fit here. And lastly, we can see that Generator 6, as well as the tank tracks themselves, seem to be some of the last additions to the map origins. And flying about here, that sort of makes sense with how things have been made, as tank tracks are not super difficult to make themselves. And it would definitely line up with the theory that this was originally going to be a pathway to Generator 3. But instead, they decided tanks are cool, and this being a large map, it would be nice to have a mode of transportation, as well as a really cool way to get extra parts for the Easter egg. Which the parkour sections for the lightning staff, probably one of my favorite Easter egg steps. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, consider leaving a like down below. It helps me out a ton, and of course, make sure you're subscribed so you can come back for more. There is a ton of dev tricks and secrets throughout Black Ops 2 in all of the zombies maps, and of course, that means there's plenty more where this came from. If you want to watch more of my content, you can click one of the videos on your screen right now, but if not, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay awesome, and peace out.